Hey y'all, I'm Jenny.
And I'm Shell.
Welcome
to Two Amp Queens Podcast.
Where we will discuss true crime, paranormal, our daily lives,
And whatever else keeps us up at night.
If you like what you hear and want to show us some love, click the link down below to help us continue and bring you new podcasts each week.
Other ways you can support us are by subscribing, liking, and sharing where you can. It's a free way you can help us out.
You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We are Two Amp Queens across all formats.
And here we go. Happy Sunday, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about a cold case out of Iowa that has a little bit of the murder mystery aspect and a little bit of the paranormal aspect. And this is actually a place that we have visited. We didn't get to go into the building because of COVID, but we did get to go around the outside and take pictures and stuff. This is the Villisca Axe Murders. This happened in Villisca, Iowa on the early morning of June 10th, 1912. This particular case actually knocked the Titanic sinking out of the #1 spot for news that year. Yeah, that's the only thing that did. This was it. The house belonged to Josiah and Sarah Moore. They had 4 children of their own, Herman Moore, 11, Catherine Moore, age 10, Boyd Moore, age 7, and Paul Moore, age 5. And that particular night, unfortunately, there were 2 neighbor children also staying with them, Lena and Ina Stillinger. Sometime around midnight between June 9th on Sunday and Monday, June 10th, someone, they don't believe he entered the home. They believe he was already in the home when they got home, when they got to the house. They believe that he was in the attic hiding. Came out of the attic and bludgeoned to death all the persons staying in the home. The one getting the worst of the bludgeoning was said to be Sarah Moore, who was the wife who they believe actually woke up when they were killing her husband. After the adults were killed, they went on to kill the 4 more children who were upstairs, and they believed that at the time, the killer did not know there were 2 children downstairs, but that the children were trying to hide, and that's how he figured out there were other people in the home.
Well, and I also heard, just to kind of interrupt for a second, I also heard that it wasn't normal to have a bedroom downstairs.
No, and I just found that out.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. They said that it was really abnormal in that time to have what they called a guest bedroom.
Right.
So people were a little confused as to why they had a bedroom off of their pantry.
Right.
So
and I guess there's suspicion that they were expecting someone to come and stay, not the girls, not the Stillinger girls,
but someone else.
Yeah. And that's why they already had that room set up like that. Because normally, I guess it wouldn't be set up with a bed in there or a made bed in there.
And it was set up as a room. I lost my train of thought. Their neighbor, I believe her name was Mary Pickman, got up early that morning, Monday morning, to start her daily chores. She went out to hang her laundry and noticed that the Moore family was not up, and they had a small farm. They had chickens and things like that, so they would have been up tending to the chickens, doing things like that. She went and knocked on the door and received no answer, and the door was locked, which she said was very odd in that time. Anyway, nobody locked their door, so the fact their door was locked was what raised an alarm with her.
And you could only lock them from the inside.
Yes.
You cannot lock them from the outside.
So they went. She contacted J.B. Moore's brother, who had a key to the home. He came down. unlocked the door and had told her to stay outside. When he went in, he found Ina and Lena Stellinger, and they believe that, I think it was Ina, or Lena, the older one, they believe she put up a fight because the way she was found, and she had defensive wounds on her. So they believe she fought the attacker. He found them and then went upstairs and found everybody else deceased in their beds. Came outside, said there's a dead body and there's someone dead in every bed, or there's a dead body in every bed. Call the sheriff. And this is where things get a little.
Okay, so here's my question: Did the brother? I thought he just found the girls downstairs.
I've read articles. Sometimes it says he just found the girls downstairs, and then sometimes it says he came out and said there's somebody dead in every bed in the house.
Because I've read too that was the sheriff.
The sheriff did it. Okay, it might have been. It might have been. Everybody, I guess, has their own take on how things happen. What was the worst thing that happened is the murder scene became a free-for-all. People were going in and out of the house. They were taking things out of the house. They had no control over this murder scene whatsoever. One thing that was odd is that the mirrors in the house and all the windows were covered. Now, there is a superstition that states that if someone is killed or dies in a room with a mirror, that if the mirror is not covered, that their soul will be captured in the mirror.
Right.
And they'll be there for all time,
yeah.
all eternity. Other things that were found odd were a bowl of bloody water downstairs where the killer apparently cleaned up, food on the table that had not been eaten, but had been made, like a plate had been made. One of the Stillinger girls had been sexually assaulted, and they had found next to a doorway a slab of bacon that they're not altogether sure, but there had been rumors in many articles that the perpetrator used it as a makeshift female part. Yeah. The axe was an axe that was from the Moore's own yard. So it's not sure if something happened, and there's been speculation that quite possibly he offended somebody during the day and they found out where he lived and went and hid in his house while they were at church. There have been several reports of some of the women in town stating that they had seen a strange man. And back then, strange man didn't mean the same thing it meant now. Strange man to them meant that it was somebody that did not live in the community, was new to the community, they didn't know, wasn't familiar to them. I think the one thing that always struck me about this is this, and it's absolutely sad that the whole family was killed, but can you imagine being the parents of Lena and Ina Stillinger?
That's crazy.
Letting your kids just innocently go spend the night at somebody's house and then they're murdered.
Something they've probably done many, many times.
All the time. They said that the girls were over there all the time. And I think too is there's a lot of debate, I think, as to whether or not one of those girls was actually sexually assaulted.
Yes. I've heard that because her nightgown was pushed up, she was exposed.
Yes.
But the doctor determined that she had not been assaulted.
And hence the bacon.
Right.
That they think that because he could not do that, he did the other thing, which is disgusting. Right.
Yeah.
To say the least. But interesting.
Let's face it, if you're walking around whacking people with an axe,
you don't have the most intact morality anyway. Exactly. One of the things, one of the people that became a main suspect was a traveling preacher named Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly. He had actually left that morning, that early morning. They had pictures of the kids with him at the church program. He left that early that morning on a train out of Villisca and was overheard telling another couple that there were 8 people back in Villisca that were butchered in their beds while they slept, even though the bodies had not yet been discovered. Like almost 3 hours before the bodies had been discovered. So that was an odd situation. Now, for him to be there in Villisca was not odd, because sometimes when churches had programs like that, they invited preachers from other towns and things like that.
And he also came back like 2 weeks later.
Yes.
And he was posing as a detective and toured the house with a group of investigators. So that's odd as well.
Which is, it's odd and it's interesting because I have read articles where they said that some people, I think they're sociopaths or psychopaths or something, when they murder somebody, they try to interject themselves into the actual investigation. Yeah. So, I mean, it is a possibility that he was one of them. Josiah Moore was not without his enemies. There were a lot of rumors that were going around after the murders, some that he was having an affair with a senator. I believe he was a senator's daughter-in-law, and that the senator had hired somebody to murder him. Not necessarily his entire family, but to murder him. And the other interesting thing is, during a 2-year period between, I think, 1910 and 1912, there had been several axe murders across the Midwest, including New Orleans. And there was also a young man, and I don't know why I can't remember his name, that was supposedly hired by the senator to kill them, had also killed his mother-in-law and his wife, like, I think a year earlier in Panola. So, I mean, that's some of the things that are, the main thing is that this crime has never to date been solved.
Well, and I think can we just touch on the fact that it's called the Villisca Axe Murders, but he didn't actually axe them. He bludgeoned them with the other end of the axe.
The other end of it. Now, Josiah did have a cut. No, it wasn't Josiah. I believe it was Sarah did have a cut. That's why they said hers was the worst, because she had a cut, I think, across her mouth.
Right.
That would have been made with the axe. But for the most part, he bludgeoned.
He bludgeoned them with the other end of the axe, and then kind of cleaned up the axe.
And this is the thing. The majority of the people back then, this is summer. It's in June. Their windows would have been up because they didn't have air conditioning back then. So the windows would have been up. We've been to the house. The house next door is the original house next door. Right. These houses are close together.
Yeah.
If you're sleeping with your window open, you would have heard screaming.
Yeah.
And she never woke up.
Well, I wonder if, though, here's what I'm confused about. So did anybody, and we never know, we won't never know, because at this point, I mean, this is over 100 years ago. So at this point,
everybody's gone.
Yeah. Even who did it is gone.
He's gone.
So did they wake up? Obviously she woke up probably while her husband was being murdered.
Yes.
But why the kids? Did they wake up too?
They never said that the 4 more children who were sleeping upstairs with the parents, and not in the same room, but across the hall, they never mentioned them waking up.
Because everybody was found in bed.
Yes.
Even though one of the Stillinger girls, it looked like she had not been in bed at the time.
Yes.
Because I think there was a spot of blood on her knee or something like that looked like she had been fighting him, not on the bed. But they were found in the bed.
Yes.
So, and they were all covered. So obviously he didn't want to see what he had done.
Yeah.
But do you think the kids woke up and came in, and then that's why he went after the kids too? Or do you think it was just someone that wanted to wipe out the entire Moore family and got Stillinger girls just because they were there?
My view on it, and this has always been my view on it, that he was not aware the Stillinger girls were there.
Right.
He killed the mother and father. Quite possibly one of the kids made a stir. Witness. If he had been seen earlier that day, or it was somebody that they could identify, obviously you kill all the kids.
Right.
I think he got startled because I think when he went downstairs, I think he heard the Stillinger girls. And that's when he went after them. Because you're talking an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. They're not going to be able to be quiet. They're going to cry. They're going to whimper. They're scared to death.
Right.
They can't get out of the house. They're not with their parents. They can't get out of the house. So they try to hide. They do believe that they tried to hide in the closet that was in the bedroom. And that's when he possibly found them. What I've read in some articles is that he found them in the closet, dragged them back over to the bed because there was things in the closet that looked like somebody was trying to hide.
Right. There was like batting or something, like cotton batting or something that looked
they
like
tried to pull.
Someone had
made a nest or something.
Had been sitting on.
So
been standing on or something.
The odd thing to me has always been, and there's another story where this came true. The odd thing to me was that the houses were so close to each other that nobody in the neighborhood heard them screaming, because the girls had to scream. Even if Josiah and Sarah didn't, the girls had to scream. They were terrified. Now, there's another more modern case that this happened in, which is the Amityville Horror in the DeFeo case, where the family, those houses are way closer than these houses were. The family was all murdered with a high-powered shotgun or rifle in their sleep. All of them were on their stomachs, shot in the back. Nobody in the neighborhood heard anything but a dog barking. This is a high-powered rifle. So that's another thing. There are studies that have been made that people believe when there is other things, other forces, if you believe in that, at work, that they create what is called like a psychic bubble around the home, that nothing can penetrate, so nobody hears anything. Whether that's true or not.
Wasn't it their dog that was barking?
Mm-hmm. Was their dog that was barking?
So I would think if that's true, then he would have been in that bubble too, and they wouldn't have heard that either.
Exactly.
But
the houses in, and we'll probably talk about this on a later episode, but the houses in Amityville were closer than the houses in Iowa.
Right, but I don't know if I was sleeping in my house with my family, and I've got dogs that rustle around at all hours of the night.
Yeah, so that doesn't bother you.
I've got white noise like ceiling fan or radio or something like that.
Would you hear it?
I don't know that I would hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we had an instance in our home where when our youngest was a baby, we had the baby monitor, and our next door neighbor was on a headset playing a video game, and it came through our monitor. Now that woke us up.
Yeah.
But that was right next to our heads. Yeah. Yeah, inside the house that we heard that, not noise from outside. So you got to figure it's got to travel from, and I realize it's loud. Yeah. I know it's loud, but it's got to travel from their house inside their house through all of their house to the outside. Right. Then it's got to go into someone else's house and through all of the noise in that house to that person. So I don't know that it's really weird that they didn't hear it. Right. But with the windows open.
Right.
That definitely, because you got to figure in June, their windows are open unless he shut them all before he did all this. Unless he went around shutting all the windows before he murdered anybody. And next door, their windows are probably open.
Right.
And we're not talking windows like we have today.
No.
The double pane.
No, we're talking single pane.
There's probably single pane, very thin.
Possibly no, what are the, I can't think of them. You open your window and then screens.
The screen.
I'm sorry, lost my train of thought. No screens. Right. So that's even more coming through. Right. So. No,
and there did, there wasn't like insulation like
no. These were thin homes.
Yeah, you got to figure noise did probably travel more.
So it was. They were.
So I would suspect
there was a question as to why nobody heard this.
I would suspect that if we're doing speculation,
right.
I would suspect that he probably shut the windows, and he would have done this before they got home because they would have noticed it.
Right.
So they go to bed. He comes out of wherever he's hiding, shuts all the windows, pulls all the blinds, covers all the mirrors, and then commences to.
Right. And another thing too, how many times, I know this has happened to me, how many times have you been woke up by something and then it's dead silent and you think, did I just hear that?
Did I actually hear something?
So that's a possibility too. She might have been woken up by a scream and then thought maybe I was just dreaming, because at that point he had killed them and there's no screaming anymore.
Right. And think about this too. Let's compare this. So when your alarm's going off.
Yes.
Anytime my alarm goes off, and it doesn't go off often anymore, but anytime my alarm goes off, it incorporates itself into whatever I'm dreaming about.
Right.
That becomes something like someone opens their mouth and the noise of my alarm clock comes out of it, or just in my dream, it's my alarm. And then eventually, after it's been going off for a bit, and it could be a second, 2 seconds,
exactly.
It could be a minute, So, but anytime that goes off, it incorporates itself into my dream first.
Right.
And then I will eventually wake up and realize it's my alarm going off, and I'll shut it off. That you could have something like that too, where they didn't hear, say they didn't, say nobody else in the house caused any commotion while they were being killed.
Right.
The girls definitely did. They most likely were fighting back. They most likely heard what was going on and knew something was going on, and it scared them before anything happened to them. So by the time they get down to them, they're causing a ruckus, trying to defend themselves, trying to fend them off and all that stuff. So it's possible, I guess. Obviously now we're determining their windows are shut, their blinds are drawn, all that stuff's already done. But the neighbors' windows most likely are open. Like you said, it's June. It's hot. They're going to have their windows open for some air circulation. That's just how they did it. So they've got their windows are open, but the Morehouse windows are not open.
Right. So it's muffled.
So that's going to be muffled a little bit at least.
Yeah.
So if you figure by the time she realizes that's not part of her dream or whatever, and wakes up and hears it, it stops.
Right.
Because he's done.
So it's gone now, and
she doesn't hear it again.
Then you start saying, okay, well, I didn't hear it.
Maybe that was actually my dream and not
now
happening.
Some other things that I'll mention is in 1994, I believe his name is Darwin Wynn and his wife purchased the home that was in very bad condition.
His name is Darwin Wynn.
Darwin Wynn. He said during the renovations, things would come up missing, like things would be moved. They took old photos of the home and tried to recreate like the furnishings where everything was at the as close as they possibly could. When they did the refurb, when he first refurbed the house, he actually rented it out to people. And there is an episode of Ghost Adventures, if you watch it, where they interview two sisters who lived in the home after it was renovated and the things that they went through, which as a child would have been horrific. Their parents at the time were like, no, that's not what's going on. That's not what you're just imagining things. But they also said that like while they lived there, their parents, their personalities changed. Their father's personality drastically changed. Their father had been sharpening his knife and inadvertently like sliced his finger open for no apparent reason. And I think after 3 or 4 different people that just up and moved out on him, he decided he wasn't going to rent the home out anymore. Did some research on it, decided to recreate what the home looked like when Josiah and Sarah lived there, and opened the house up for tours at that time. During tours in the early years, they had complaints that there were children seen, that some of the kids wanted to know who the child was that was out by the barn playing with their daughter, and there was no child. They had done EVPs, which are electronic voice phenomena, where you can record, ask a question, and you might be able to pick something up on a recorder, where they've had children's laughter. They've had questions answered and things like that. Now,
there is a documentary out, and just kind of researching this a little bit, there is a documentary out that I think it's called Villisca Living with a Mystery.
yes.
It was put out many, many years ago, like in 2004, something like that. There is suspicion that this crime was actually the work of possibly America's first serial killer, because there were similar crimes in Monmouth, Illinois, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Ellsworth, Kansas.
Yes.
So they think that Villisca is attached to those crimes, because they were very similar. So there's suspicion that this is America's first serial killer.
Yes, I have heard that too.
He was never caught.
Nope.
And I don't believe those murders are solved either.
And they also believe that it was possibly attached to the famous New Orleans axe murderer.
Right, I've heard that as well. Yeah.
Who
the
jazz murderer, or jazz axe murderer, or whatever it was. And if you're not playing jazz when he comes through, he's going to kill you.
There's a American Horror Story.
Yes.
Did a season of about witches in New Orleans. And I can't remember what that season is called, but it's American Horror Story, and the New Orleans Axe Murderer, jazz axe murderer, is kind of featured in that season. Yeah. So that's where I learned about that, which I found that very interesting. And I didn't know at first that was connected to Villisca either. So
that's with some reading and stuff that I did. Now inside the home, some interesting things that we've already pointed out, like when the axe was theirs, the Moore families, the food, the things like that. But in the bedroom where Sarah and Josiah were sleeping, there are back of the axe size marks in the ceiling. They said that he hit them with such force that when he pulled the axe up over his shoulder, he hit the ceiling, and the marks are still there. The parents, the kids, I don't know. Either way, it's horrific, but the parents were like unrecognizable. They were the target. Were the main source. Yeah. Now Josiah.
But that could also be because they were older and could possibly overpower him.
Exactly. He had to get them. Josiah had worked for a company that did basically like hardware, and he left that company abruptly and started his own business. And then his business became more successful than the company that he had worked for in the town. So they believe that that had something to do with it as well. Now, that's where that went. And the thing is you have to understand that there was really nothing, unless somebody came forward and said something, there wasn't really anything that led them to believe that anybody was after them.
Right.
Everything was rumors.
They were well liked.
Very well liked in the community. They were very
rumors,
upstanding.
But it's a small town, so obviously rumors are going to happen.
Exactly. And I will say this, because honestly, you have to be very careful when you're researching, you're talking about things like this, because you don't know if there's still family living. He obviously had brothers and sisters.
Right.
His family has said that the rumors that were going around were not true. The only reason these were rumors is because he was in basically competition with another person.
He left that and started his own.
Yes.
The rumors are that there was competition, and whoever owned the previous one was not happy with him opening his own store.
Right.
So yeah, that's, obviously a small town like that.
Yes, it's going to happen. There had also been rumors that because Josiah was so well liked in the community, that there was whispers of a possibility that he might be running for office, which would be why the senator came into play, because he would have taken his spot.
Right.
So yeah, and you have to understand that back then, some of the ways that they dealt with their enemies were not like, oh, we just slander them online. No, they would actually go kill people. Beat them up, do things like that. So these are things that went along with it. Now,
to me though, if that was the source of why this happened,
yes,
I don't believe the kids would be involved.
No, and that's what makes it,
especially not the Sillinger girl,
right? Because they had
no
nothing
connection
to do.
to them. They were not family.
Exactly.
They would not gain anything if the Moore family was wiped out.
They were just unfortunately there that night and stayed there.
So I don't. That to me kind of blows that one out of the water, just because I can't picture why the kids would come into play,
right?
Unless it was somebody they knew, and one of them woke up, and then you've got a kind of a domino effect, because if one wakes up, you take them back in their room, off them, and then you've got the other one wakes up, and like I said, a domino effect.
I think the three boys had a room together, and the little girl had a room together, I think it was 2 and 2. I think the youngest and the girl had a room together, and the older boys had a room together, and then the 2 girls downstairs. But then that's what brings it full circle of a possible serial killer.
Right.
Several, and when I mean several, I mean over a dozen of these murders had happened within a 2-year span, not just in that area of the United States, but like in Louisiana, in Kansas, in Missouri, Colorado. And if this person is traveling by rail, it would be easy for him to get to these places and be gone.
Yeah.
So, like I said, there were several different ones. Now, a lot of people have had issues with going and staying at the place. You can, during normal times, you can go on tours. You can go on a historical tour. You can do a night tour where they do a ghost hunting. There have been people that have rented the entire building out and done ghost hunts. Now, we went to the house, and we're not able to get into the house because of the COVID, but we did go up onto the porch, front and back, and I will tell you this is just me. When you step onto the porch, and it could be because you know the story,
right?
You are literally heart beating, expecting to look into the house and see somebody standing there. That's what it feels like. It feels like somebody's fixing to open the door and invite you in the house.
Right. And I didn't necessarily get that feeling, but I really didn't want to look into the door.
Exactly.
Because I was a little bit afraid of that. But the feeling that I really got was just an overwhelming sadness.
Sadness, yes.
That was what and it could probably is because, and this is the skeptic in me, but it probably is just because as a mom, I knew that several children had lost their lives like that. Unnecessarily. They were young. Nobody was over 12 years old. I think the oldest one was 12.
I think she was 12.
And she didn't even belong to the Moores. But so 12 and under, they have their entire life ahead of them. That's where I feel like my sadness came from.
Right.
My youngest son, who was with us when we went, he had the intense feeling that somebody was watching him.
Yes.
The entire time we were there.
Several comments during that time.
And I mean, he's always at ease. He is never he is very chill. He doesn't get, all amped up about stuff. Even like when something goes good for him, he doesn't get all amped up. He's just very, very chill.
Yeah.
And for him to say that really kind of made me think, wow, that's odd for him to say.
Yeah.
He felt uncomfortable. He felt like someone was watching him.
Right.
Even though we do have pictures and we'll post them. We do have pictures, so we'll post those up. I don't know why I just repeated myself. So,
but you look at the pictures. We'll post the pictures on our pages. You look at the pictures and you tell me the vibe that we were getting, and my nephew got the same vibe. Where it was coming from, that we felt like we were being watched, was oddly enough the attic area where the killer had hid, waiting for them to get home.
But I have not found anything in the picture.
No, and I haven't either.
I've looked with magnifying glass.
Yes.
I've, blew them up and looked at them. I don't see anything.
I don't either.
That didn't look exactly what we saw with our naked eyes.
Right. This is the thing. I don't know how much, I know my sister and me both have the same type of interest. I have an obsession with paranormal, basically because I do believe in it. My grandmother said that she did believe in things like that, though she didn't believe that it was, she believed that they were people sent to you when you needed them. And that's how you cope.
That's kind of how I believe.
Yes.
I don't necessarily believe in spirits and stuff like that, but I do believe that God gives us the ability to be comforted by our loved ones that have passed.
When we need them.
When we need them, when it's just almost too much for us to bear.
Yes.
He will send us that,
basically like a calm to your heart.
An angel or whatever you want to call it. He will send us that peace.
Yes.
To help us over that hump, that's making it where it's just, you're right on the edge of, I can't handle this. Yeah. It's too much. Because the saying is, and that's Grandma always said this, God will never give you more than you can handle.
Exactly.
And trust me, I've been to that point of, I can't take any more.
Right.
I actually get there a lot. I think that's an amputee thing with phantom pain and things like that. I get to that point a lot where it's just almost more than I can take.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, that's it. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm out. Yeah. Deuces. And then I hear my granny's voice in my head. I don't necessarily see her, but I feel her presence. And I hear, come on, Juju. You got this. You do this, girl. 100 years from now, it won't matter anyway. The Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise. That kind of thing.
All her sayings.
So I actually hear her voice saying that to me. I don't hear it out loud. I hear it in my soul, basically. And so I do think that's more how I lean towards it, where it's like, God gives us that ability to be comforted or be motivated by someone we were close to when they were alive, that they're not alive anymore. So, that's kind of where I think. So I don't necessarily think you can see spirits or things like that, just random spirits, because I don't know why that would happen. Why you would need to be comforted or scared or whatever by a spirit that you weren't related to.
Right.
So I don't necessarily believe that, but I do watch the paranormal shows a lot.
Yeah.
And I do see what they're seeing.
There are things that
can't be explained.
Now, I'm a firm believer, and my husband is too, that God does not allow children to remain on this earth after they die. I do believe that there are certain, and this is a lot of it is scientifically proven, there are certain rocks like limestone and quartz and things like that that absorb basically what would be likened to us as a memory. I believe that houses can absorb memories. But I've never, so I think that a lot of these things that they're seeing are what they call a residual haunting, which it's just like a tape recorder playing over and over and over again, which
Right.
there was a severely traumatic thing that happened in that house.
Yes.
You cannot tell me that didn't hang around afterwards. It leaves a mark.
I definitely think that leaves a mark.
But do I believe that children are stuck here after they die? No, absolutely not. I have always believed that if something presents itself to you as a child, that it is demonic.
That's not a child.
It's not a child. It's something to get you comfortable with it.
How threatening is a child? It's not. A child is not threatening unless it's Chucky.
Now, the only 2 instances that I've ever had an issue with, for what I believe is, I believe that if something is either appears to you as a child, if it is a non-family member, I believe that it is demonic. If it is a family member, I have heard that it could be, that's when they felt their happiest was as a child.
Right.
So that's how they presented themselves to you as a child.
And if you think about that way, it could be that is their connection to you.
Exactly. You knew them as a child, so that's how they came to you as a child.
So that's how they would present themselves to you, maybe?
Possibility. I've always believed that something, a demon's not going to come out and say, "Hey, it's me, the devil," and look like what we've deemed the devil would look like. No, it's going to look like something that's going to put you at ease. That's going to put you. It's going to calm your heart. It's going to make you trust them.
Right.
So as far as that, now I will say this. I have never seen a show where they have caught evidence, like physical looking at evidence of a ghost in that house. I have seen in a Villisca house.
Okay.
There have been EVPs and voice recordings and things like that they've played that are this. Now you can think what you want.
I think like the energy would get stuck.
Right. And that's what I think. I think the energy just stuck there.
With that volume of energy.
Yes.
You've got 8 people.
Yes. 8 people. It was 8 people altogether.
That lost their lives violently. That if they didn't pass peacefully in their sleep, they didn't die of carbon monoxide poisoning, anything like that. They were violently taken out of this earth. And I think that energy would get stuck unless someone completely demolished the property and started over, which nobody has done. That is the same house.
Same house.
So even if they've redone the inside, which I don't think they've done, I think they've refurbished it.
Yeah,
I don't think they have
remodeled,
changed it.
No, nothing's changed.
So I don't think, like the studs or the walls or whatever like that have necessarily changed. But that energy I feel like that energy would just get stuck there. Yeah. And there's no way to get it out.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily seeing like those people, but the act. You know what I'm saying? Like the energy of that act, I think, is what got stuck there. Exactly. And I can totally see that. I can totally see that would cause EVPs because you're hearing the act.
Right.
You're hearing the energy of the act that got stuck.
It's like a recording. But now, do people
not necessarily the people, but the act.
Do people feel uncomfortable in the house? Absolutely. Would you not feel uncomfortable in a place where 8 people were brutally murdered?
6 of which were children.
Exactly. I mean, I would feel extremely uncomfortable. That's probably why we felt so uncomfortable being next to.
I'm sure.
Because we knew. Now, I'm weird about things. I put my hand on the house. The house has a vibration to it, honestly. Now, is it really the house or is it just something around the land? There was nothing around the home that was overly electronic.
Right.
But when you touch the house, you can almost feel, like you said, sadness, being overwhelmed, feeling like something's about to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm also a true believer in mass hysteria, which mass hysteria basically to me is like somebody tells you a story, puts you in the place where the story took place, your mind takes over.
And I think a lot of that too has to do with, you're probably a lot like me. I get such a hard time from my family about this, my immediate family, like my husband, my kids. I get such a hard time from them about being too sensitive. Yes. So a movie plays, I'm always going to be that person that puts myself in that other person's situation. Yes. Like I always will try to put myself in their situation and feel what they're feeling. Yes. And I'm a crier. I will cry at the drop of a hat at a sad movie or even an overly happy movie. Yeah. You know, what's that movie with the little girl that fell down the tree and had she had issues with her stomach where she couldn't eat without getting like violently ill. Jennifer Garner was in it.
Oh, I know. It was based on a true story, wasn't it? I remember what you're talking about, yeah.
But when she came out of the tree, because she fell down a tree, and she said that her grandmother had been with her and that she just knew that she was going to be okay, that everything was going to be fine, and that God spoke to her and her grandmother was with her. Her grandmother that had passed was with her. That I got over emotional just like that at a happy moment. Right. So, you know, I think when you are like that, when you are a little more sensitive to what other people feel and what other people think, that leads you to be open to feeling that sadness. I mean, just you would be sad. Absolutely. It's just sad.
It's just a sad story. The fact that this family really did nothing to warrant what this person did to them, and then the fact that their family didn't even have closure afterwards because it's never been solved.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think a lot of it, like Jenny's touched on, a lot of the women in our family have what is considered empathic or sensitive qualities, and a lot of people put a label on it and say, oh my gosh, that's witchcraft, stuff like that. It's really not. If you would think about it, if you see something and you get emotional about it and it's not even you that it's happening to, you have empathic qualities. You just take on other people's feelings. My youngest son, when I am sick, he doesn't even live with us. When I'm sick, even if I haven't talked to him, he does not have Facebook. He does not have Instagram, so he would not know. He will call me out of the blue and go, how long have you been feeling bad? He knows because of that quality how long, you know, that I haven't been feeling well. So I think being around places where something has happened, it's stamped its mark on the place. Mm-hmm. It's gonna feel weird to you anyway. You know, my advice to you, like we do with everything, is do some research. If this is on your bucket list, do go see it. They're gonna start opening back up, I think, in June. So it's gonna be this summer.
I want to say it's like $10 to get in.
Yes. From what I've read, the tour guides are awesome. They're very, they know knowledgeable. They know a lot of stuff about what goes on. I believe one of the, if he still does it, one of the guys, he's been on Ghost Adventures and a couple other places, is the gentleman that lives next door in Mary Pickford's home. Pickman, in her home. And he's had some issues in her home as well as stuff there on the property. So, you know, do your research, go visit the place. The town of Villisca is just a cute little farm town. Not much to it. Yeah. That was kind of a blink of an eye and you're out of there. Their claim to fame is the Villisca Axe Murder house. So, you know, get out there. If it's on your bucket list, go tour it. Do your research. Say this,
though, it is in a neighborhood.
Yes, so please be respectful.
Don't be rude. Yeah. You know, be respectful of the people who actually live around that house. Yes. And stay where you're supposed to stay. Abide by the rules of the house.
If you have questions, please keep them to asking the tour guide. Do not go
knocking on people's doors, asking them how they feel about living next to the Ballistic Axe Murder house.
Because honestly, the people that live in the area probably just don't care that the house is there. It's just another house.
Right.
They get it, but it's not. They've probably never seen anything, never heard anything. So,
and they're just trying to live their life.
Exactly.
And that house happens to be where their house is. So don't go knocking on people's doors or getting in people's yards. You know, stay where you're supposed to stay. Be respectful of the area.
Yes. But, you know, do your research. And
don't show up there telling them, well, Jenny and Michelle told me to come
out there.
Come knock on the door.
They don't know us. We ain't that famous.
We didn't tell you that.
We didn't tell you that. But, you know, do your research. If you have some questions, send them in. If you have a place that you would like for us to research, let us know. Drop us a line on our Facebook page or send us an email. And
yeah, we need some more interaction. So we want to reach out to you guys and just say, you know, hey, we're here. We want to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, we don't have anything else to do, so we thought we think we're hysterical. So, but we need some input. You guys let us know what you want to hear about, what you want to hear us talking about. If you want to hear us talking about anything, let us know. Like and subscribe and share and do all that stuff. We do have a channel over on YouTube.
Yes.
They took us down. I think the Girl Scout Murders was a little heavy for them, so they took us down. But we do have we were able to get the channel back up. So we do have this podcast over there in video format. You won't see us, but I try to put pictures and things like that on the video for now. But go over there, like, subscribe, share. We wanted, if you're able to support us, there is a link in our podcast where you can monetarily support us, and that will help us do research and things like that. Maybe be able to go on a little road trip or something and go visit some of these places. If you can't support us monetarily, totally fine. Like, share, subscribe. Those are free ways you can help us out.
Drop us a line.
Yeah. Email us to ampqueens@gmail.com. That's the number 2, ampqueens@gmail.com. Let us know what you want to hear about. Let us know your thoughts. You can comment on the YouTube videos. You can share your comments and all that stuff. Don't be afraid. Even if you say, I don't like this subject matter, tell us that. We don't. It's not going to hurt our feelings.
Tell us what you'd like to hear.
Yeah, we definitely want to know.
So
y'all are on this journey with us, and we want you to stay on this journey with us. So
yes,
get involved and help us out, and either help us out monetarily, help us out freely with just liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Tell your friends about it. Hit up our Facebook page, share that with your friends, all that good stuff. Every bit of that helps us out. We're not on here looking to make money.
Nope.
That's not why we started this.
No, we know better.
We just want to get this stuff off our chest. We want to share it. We want to be able to talk through it, and we also want to see what other people think about it. So let's have some discussion. Share some comments. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on email. Whatever you're more comfortable doing, let us know and give us your thoughts and your feedback, and so we can continue doing all this stuff. So
yes, and you guys have a wonderful week, and chin up, and we got this, guys. So have a beautiful Sunday, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye. Well, that's all we have for today.
Drop by our Facebook page and let us know what keeps you up at night. Bye, y'all.